Hey everybody, Hunter back again from Showtime Studios, part number 36 in the build tutorial series. This time we're going to be doing something that, to tell you the truth, I'm not a real big fan of. I've been using this product for a lot of years now, and if I'm going to make any mistakes on camera, it will be with this product. And what we're talking about is this stuff right here, bare metal foil. Some people love it. They use it on everything they can, that they can put it on. And I'm one of those people that I use it on what I have to. The rest of the stuff I try to simulate with a some type of a metallizer or something like that. I can use bare metal foil, but it seems like with me, I'll get it right one time, and then the next time I sit down with the same procedures and can't really, get it to come out the way I want to. So hopefully everything goes right on this. What we're going to be doing is adding the ribs that actually hold down the wood and separate it in the back here. That's what we're going to be doing with the bare metal foil. I'll show you the steps that I use to do bare metal foil in this case here, and hopefully everything goes as planned. I did notice there was a question that came up from Todd H. He wanted to know what pressure I was spraying the interior components at. Todd, I've been spraying 90% of what I spray on a model is going to be right in that same range that we talked about in the previous videos. Usually set the compressor right at about 20 pounds. And when I pull the trigger through, my air hose, my regulator, water trap, and the gun, it drops down to about 15 to 16 pounds. So that's what I'm spraying at most times. And as far as all the interior components, that was what we sprayed it at. Even when I did the wood graining back here, I never touched the regulator. It was sprayed at the same thing. I don't touch the regulator a whole lot. You will find that, 15, 16 pounds at the gun, maybe up to 20, works very well for just about anything that you want to spray. But that's not always set in stone. Sometimes you have to tweak those, that pressure a little bit. So, but yeah, we're at about 15 to 16 when I pull the trigger back on the gun. So, we're going to get into this bare metal foil thing. So I've got a piece cut off here. This is what they call the new and improved chrome. And hopefully it's improved enough and acts like it has sense, because I've had bad luck with bare metal foil. Like I say, sometimes I can get it right. Other times it's a nightmare. And I think that goes for a lot of people out there. So what we're going to do is we have this length from here to here that we need to cover. That's our longest span. So that's what I'm going to cut my strip at. And I'm not one that saves a whole bunch of bare metal foil. I'll cut it in a piece like this because that's what I'm working with. And then I will go in and just cut this off in strips. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We're basically going to have 5 altogether. So we're going to cut 5 strips of this about the same width. And I always cut it a little bit bigger than the component that I'm doing. What we got there? We got 3 there now. 4 and 5. And on that, what we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the little ones will be the 5th one. So I'm going to take one of these and I'm actually going to cut it in half, because we're going to use that on these small ones right here at the ends. And then we'll use the other 4 on them long ones down through the center. So we're going to set all that over to the side right now. And it's a little bit easier when you have this factory edge on here. Most of the time it's raised up a little bit. You take your number 11 blade, slip underneath of it, and you can grab a hold of it. Now, the one thing that you don't want to do is where this factory edge is, don't try to use that for a finished part of the bare metal foil. Make sure that goes out here where you're going to cut it off, because a lot of times there's not a lot of adhesive on the very ends of it. So make sure that goes past the part that you're working on. And then I just, slowly slide it off the backing, and we'll bring it over, and we just want to center the width of that across the piece that we're working on. and you don't want to burnish it down yet or do anything so that it's, stuck down real good yet. What I like to do is start pretty much in the center of the panel and stick it down right there. And then we're going to take a Q-tip, and all I did was just wetten the end of this and then roll it off on the paper towel. And we are going to burnish that into place. We're going to start from the center, and we're going to work our way to the outside edges. And if you see a wrinkle start to form as you're pushing along, you can grab a hold of the edge of it and lift it up like that, and then finish burnishing that out to the edge, and that gets it stretched and laid down where you want it to be. So anytime you see a wrinkle starting to form, don't just run right over top of it and try to push it out. Go ahead and lift it back up, and then work it out with it raised up. It works a little bit better. Now we're going in and putting a little bit more pressure on the Q-tip to make sure that we burnish everything down into all the recesses. And the one thing that I did not bring over here, let me go grab one real quick, is my Tamiya Q-tip. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've got one of the Tamiya Q-tips here. They got a little bit more of a point on them. Now, in the past, I usually did this with a piece of like basswood or something like that. But since I found these Tamiya Q-tips, you can pick them up at Hobby Lobby. They're very handy for doing bare metal foil work. So what we're going to do with it is we're going to start in the center again. And we're going to rub everything down, working from the center out. And this is going to push all the air bubbles and all that stuff out of it. And we're going to work all the way to the back here. And then we're going to turn around and we're going to burnish everything to the front, pushing the air bubbles as you go. And I'm working on just the center of the rib right now. I'm not, if you notice, I haven't burnished anything out here on the outer edges. I'm just working, and it's the same thing. You're working from the center out, going long ways. You also want to work from the center out, going across your whatever you're doing. So we are finishing up now out to the edge. So now we have from the center out long ways. Now we're going to go in and go and burnish these edges down where we're actually going to cut the bare metal foil off. I had a little spot right back there on the top edge that I needed to push down. Okay, now we're going to come back here to the center on the outside of our rib, and we're going to burnish that down to the rear. And then we're going to burnish it down to the front. Bare metal foil is a very tedious thing. Some guys out there are very, very good at it. And my hat's off to you. People like Don Yost. If you ever watch Don Yost put bare metal foil on, he is a whiz at it. He is a master. He does very good work with it. Here we're going to start from the center again. We're on this side of the rib. We're going to work to the back. And now we're going to go to the front. And we're going to get everything burnished down real well. We're going to try to tuck our edges in back here where we have the raised part of the panel so that when we get ready to cut that, we don't have any issues with that part. Now, I use a number 11 blade to cut my bare metal foil. There is what they call a scalpel blade out there. It's a surgical blade. It's actually what Don Yost uses. He told me about them. I tried them, and to tell you the truth, when it comes to bare metal foil, I do not like them. I don't like the way the blade flows on the surface. He does it with them and does a phenomenal job. It's just not something that I'm comfortable with. So I go back to number 11 blade. I just put a brand new one in here. So we're going to come back right along the edge of our raised rib here where it meets the wood. And we're going to lay the hobby knife in there. And we're going to slowly pull that knife back using the edge as a guide to the rear. And then we are going to turn the corner here, and hopefully everybody can see what I'm doing. My head ain't in the way. We're going to go in and cut that right across there. And we're going to cut that right across there. And then we're going to take the very point of the knife and very carefully, or the blade, and get underneath of that excess. And we're going to lift that up a little bit. And another thing to have handy at your workbench during this time is, as soon as I get a hold of them here, is a pair of tweezers. That way, once you pull that up a little bit, you can grab a hold of that and just pull that out of there, just like that. Now, some people will keep this little strip here for something else. If you want to do that, that's perfectly fine. Me, once I cut this off, it's going in the scrap. I throw that away. But if you want to save some money and, pinch some pennies or whatever, definitely hang on to that. Put it back on a piece of this transfer. Like on this section here, if we were to take the bare metal foil off of this, keep this backing paper, and then you can put that right back on it. But I don't keep that myself. So now we're going to go to the other side of the rib. We're going to start right up in the very corner. We're going to use the rib for a guide. We're going to come all the way to the back. And then we're going to go back here to the front. Trim that. Trim this back here at the rear. Get the knife underneath of it. Lift it up. Grab a hold of it with our tweezers. And if you notice, I'm pulling out and away from what we cut. That way, if you didn't happen to cut all the way through it, you'll see it. You just watch as it's starting to pull up, and then you can stop. You can burnish that back down and recut it, and you'll be good to go. So there we have that. Now I'm going to go in with the wider Q-tip now, and I'm going to burnish all of that down where we just cut it. Again, just to make sure all the edges are down real good. And now we're going to come right across the back of the panel here. We're going to cut that off. And we're going to come across the front of the panel here. We're going to cut that section off. And we'll hold it up here, let you get a view of it, of what it looks like, burnished down. And that's what it looks like. That's the bare metal foil. You can see the fastener sticking up through it. It's all burnished down. Looks real good, nice and clean. And all you're going to do is repeat that process all the way across. Nothing really changes. Same deal. I'm not going to sit here on camera and do the whole thing, because it's exact what we did with that step there. All the other ribs are identical. So that's how I go about doing bare metal foil. And believe it or not, it actually worked pretty well that time for me, so I'm happy with that. And if you need to, you can go in with the side that's not wet on the Q-tip, and you can lightly polish it if you want to. Now, the one thing about polishing bare metal foil is you have to be careful of is if you've got a lighter color on either side of it and you buff it a little bit too much, it'll put a black residue on whatever you're using to buff it. And that black residue sometimes will transfer over to a lighter color part. Like if you're doing white or something like that, I've noticed that it will transfer over. So be careful with that. Be careful where you're, polishing. But once you go in, you can actually buff that out. And I mean, it looks like a piece of stainless steel or a piece of chrome. So that's all there is to putting the bare metal foil on these ribs. And like I say, off camera, I'm going to go ahead and continue the rest of them. And then we'll come back, and I think we're up to the point of starting on the flocking for the carpet. So that'll be coming up here real soon. Stay tuned for that. And like always, I want to thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.